Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, Labor Day, and we're back at the job site. So I don't know if I told you, that other room looks so good off the first coat. I told them, oh yeah, I already told you. I told them, looks so good, we got this extra paint, what do you want to do? And they're like, do the second room. So that's what we're in right now. And but before I get into this room, so we had a winning in the family here. We're shifting gears a lot. So the burnt down house, if you didn't know, our house got burnt down like a year and a half ago, and it's been a journey to say the least, especially when you got people who like to do things a little backwards. Could have been in the house could have been rebuilt in 6 months, but anyways. So but it's almost done, and I got some indirect confirmation Jaja will be moving once her knee heals up back to the original house. It'll be a brand new house. She loves having it all to herself. She can just fill it up with junk, and she really likes to be alone. She likes family in very small doses, and so that's good for us. It'll give us a lot more space. Even though it's a big house, we just kind of require a lot of space. And even though I'm kind of like a minimalist, when you get a family, you don't got a choice, man. But you probably noticed over the last couple of videos, the kids had, and this is just between transitioning from preschool to kindergarten, and it's like a 10-day break. They're still on break today. The wife's with them. And it's been a long time coming to where, like, she would have had today off anyways, but before it was, Jeff, you have the flexible schedule, you stay home. I have this 9-to-5 job, and I can't lose it because you're not working enough, because you're staying home all the time with the kids. Kind of that is changing now. It's finally sinking in, like, hey, daddy can make a lot more money and all that other stuff. And her job is, she's like, she doesn't even know if she's going to be having a job the next week anymore. She works at a community clinic. And for those of you who don't know, corruption runs at all levels. When she first got into this job like 5 years ago, they just transitioned CEOs, and the last CEO bailed, left the country, was embezzling the whole time. And they're so understaffed right now, like everywhere else. People are quitting left and right, like everywhere else. And they're in a hiring freeze, so they're not hiring anybody else on. They won't do remote work, even though they can, just because there's nobody there at all. And in this day and age, you got kids who need remote work. Winter's coming up. They're ramping up the Rona again. Kids are getting sent home because some other kid tested positive or had a sore throat or whatever, which, I mean, I kind of get the whole sick, we don't want everybody spreading stuff thing. But speaking of spreading stuff, I mean, my kid, Isaiah, it wasn't hand, foot, and mouth when he got sent home before this 10-day vacation, 2 days before. Some other kid had a possible hand, foot, and mouth, and that sucks. Our cousin's like youngin, like not even a year old, had it twice. But there wasn't hand, foot, and mouth. Both the kids tested positive for strep, right? Super contagious, blah, blah, blah. If you think of it in that way, and I think I might have touched on this before too, that kid was drooling, coughing in my mouth for days, sleeping next to me, and he couldn't swallow, so he was drooling all over everything, and then crying, screaming as I'm holding him, going it's been a week now, I haven't even got a little tickle in the back of my throat. Now, if it is actually that kind, I'm not that healthy. I smoke. My sleep is horrible from time to time. I'm overweight. Love the sugar. Yeah. And nothing, really? You know what I mean? The kid might as well have been just leaning over me, drooling in my mouth, and nothing at all. Anywho, um, so coming up wintertime, they got all these breaks. We already seen the schedule. Got another MEA teacher training thing for a few days. You got Thanksgiving, you got snow days, you got kids getting sent home being sick, you got a 2-week winter break, right? So after a while, you do start crunching the numbers and you're like, geez, it doesn't work with 9 to 5 jobs with 2 parents. It just doesn't. The wife is starting to realize that, and she's finally getting on board with the vision I had like a year ago. Now, granted, we got a little fumbled with moving around and the house fire and all that, and it's pretty much like there are plenty. It's 2023. There's plenty of online hustles you can do to make even more than she's making now. Easier to do. You're on your own schedule, working half the amount. And you have the freedom to take care of yourself, be with the kids more, handle little house stuff. And when the kids get sent home, you're already pretty much there. And I already did it for years, 3 years, you know. And the trick to that is you got to have enough money or be making enough money. See, my job, I have to leave the house. If I'm home with the kids, I'm not. Made a couple of bucks writing books and whatnot, but for the most part, you have to be working remote. You just have to. And like I said, her job isn't even promised, and we're barely getting by as it is. I'm like, she's not even making enough, and she's making what was decent money 5 years ago, but she ain't the same anymore, you know. So she's on board. She's gonna try some online hustles. She's already been letting her boss, who's all for it, he's trying to get people to work remote, to do the remote work. They got a grant for it. They got a lot of money to let people there during the non-essential thing, to let people do flex work, but they never implemented it. They keep having meetings about it and they talk about it just to placate it, but they never actually do it, and they never will. So that being said, that's good. We're on the same page finally. She's not so worried about losing her job. It took a while for that to sink in, that like I can be super busy, or one of her side hustles can be just helping me. She wants to learn handy stuff. And even at this project here, she could do a ton of this stuff, and I can move on and do the harder stuff and just go bid another job or something. So plenty of options. You just got to get a little creative and have a little bit of faith. And then timing, of course, is pretty good. We're at a good juxtaposition where we can flip the schedules. And plus, just for the kids, man, like we're dropping them off at 7:30 in the morning and picking them up at 4:30. That's a long day for a kid, you know what I mean? To just be away from home. And then we're kind of in a slump where we pick them up, you know, we'd all take a little break. We'd watch like a half-hour TV or something, start getting dinner ready, eat, maybe go for a walk, bath, bed, and repeat. Wake up in the morning, whatever, have morning snack and juice, get ready for school, off to school you go, after school, same thing, over and over, not really doing anything. And not really teaching them anything either. My personal goal is to have at least Isaiah, I think his personality, it'll work for, to do homeschooling, actually. Kaya, she I don't know how well she'll do with homeschooling, and they're in a private school. And that was the biggest fear of mine, is that we're going to get to a position going the way that we're going to where we'll have to put them in public school because we won't be able to afford private school. And we're getting private school at a discount. It's not cheap. But it was like daycare before, and it was actually cheaper than at-home daycares. So it worked when it worked. You know what I'm saying? So that's the plan, and I'm super stoked. We needed this shift bad because you're just getting them ruts. Them wage jobs, you start getting that kind of fixed income and routine, and you start building your life around that, and you can't get out of it. You know what I mean? And there's security in it because you got to go to work every day. There's always work every day. But to me, and this was even, I started my first little kind of handyman thing when I was 16. I knew from a young age I couldn't do, you know, the just go to work punch in thing. It just wasn't in me. And times are changing. It doesn't work anymore. And you see articles about it all the time. Oh, remote work, this and that. It just doesn't work, especially with kids. It does not work. And they're not giving you raises or anything, at least nothing that's keeping up. You know what I mean? Here's your 3% raise or 1.5%, whatever inflation rate is, but yet you got to buy 200 different things a month and it's all been inflated. That doesn't calculate, and it still isn't keeping up. I mean, come on. So when I just raised my rates, I raised it like $5 an hour. Not to most in a wage job. If they got a $5 raise, they'd be shitting bricks. Be like, woohoo! But that's just, I mean, I'm just keeping up with that's just what it is. And I can just do it. I don't got to go talk to my boss, wait a few years. Just like when the state raised, Minnesota raised, I remember they were talking about this like 15 years ago, raising the minimum wage. And it's funny because it takes them 7 years to raise the minimum wage towards basically at the point where they are initially talking about it. It doesn't do anything. Right now, people should be getting $10 raises to keep up. Easy. And you can say, oh, that's whatever. Go get a degree or whatever, like that helps. And even with well-paying jobs, you built your life around it. You got the big house and the big car. You did within the means. Your 401k, which is a scam in itself, or your stocks plummet, or you have a medical expense or something, you're dead in the water too. If you're making $100,000 a year, you can be dead in the water like that. Why aren't you turning off? All right, painting the second room now. They got some dark color, so this will take 2 coats. And it might even show through just a hair. But this has generally got dimmer lighting. There's no light up in here at all. This is my little makeshift light. I just got one of these lamps for like $8 and I put it on the door. And I can just move it. But as you can see, the kid in here had one of them rope lights or whatever lining the wall. There's a stick on one. So to tear that off, and then you got to go sand it a little bit so you don't have a ridge in there. And then on the blue, they had a lot of crusties, old paint, whatever, and it's dark up in there, so I just primed that. I probably should prime this whole wall, but no. I'll do 2 coats. It's really good paint, and you're in the dark room. So I'm letting that dry while I tape off and take off all the face plates, wipe everything down, whatever. I'll probably give this closet that we did that little patchwork in a little coat because it's a little funky. 2 quick things. When I'm doing walls and I'm sanding, I use the spongy sandpaper pads instead of a block, because the block corners will kind of dig into the wall sometimes. These are they're just better and they bend. And now I'm putting all the plates back on this room that we just did. And I had a couple of these full cover ones. They just cover up the old outlet. The old outlets are often dirty, got other paint on them, whatever. These just look clean and they work just fine. And these are the old ones. When you do these plate covers, I'll use a screwdriver. All you need is finger tight. And why you do that is because of this. Whoever did it before, even if they used a screwdriver, they broke like all of them. You don't need to do them very tight. You just gotta stay on there. But yeah, like all these are broken and whatever.